Well, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ellithorpe at Tustin Longevity Center here in Southern California, next to the beautiful Pacific Ocean near Newport Beach and Pier. And we are enjoying such wonderful weather here, fall weather. And I have questions today. I have quite a few on my emails that I just was handed a few minutes ago. I had a very busy day of work, enjoyed my work today, and will enjoy doing my workout with my husband, doing weightlifting after we're done with this program. So we have this every Tuesday at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time. And you can type in an email request if you go to tlcdoctors.com, tlcdoctorsplural.com. That's our website. And if you get on our email list, we'll notify you when we're going to do our next live Q&A, Ask the Doctor Anything. This is for educational purposes. This is not meant to be personal instructions. It's my general reflections on the various questions from the general population about what a functional integrative medical doctor trained in allopathic general medicine would do. I've been doing this for 43 years. And so we have clinicians, healthcare providers here that look to try and find a preventive or a recovery path using as much natural methodologies as possible to any of your concerns. So we take these kind of questions and we look at how we might begin to approach this, but it's not meant to be individual recommendations, but rather as a seed to discuss how we would approach the question at hand. We also have the live chat here. If you're on YouTube, you can type in a question on the live chat, and I will also try and respond to those. My questions, if they are helpful to you and you enjoy this, I would appreciate it if you would hit the like button and or subscribe and share this with your friends. So we'll begin with a question from Pat. Pat asked the question, she just turned 70 years old and had an endoscopy, which is a scope going down the throat, because she was suspected of having gastroesophageal reflux disease. And the preliminary report showed eosinophilia, esophagitis, and gastritis. No results yet from biopsies. She was given omeprazole, a proton pump inhibitor, to reduce the acid in her stomach, to take twice a day until more information comes in from the biopsies. And her question is there a natural alternative to this drug? I really do not want to take proton pump inhibitors. In general, again, I'm not telling you, Pat, what to do. I didn't see the report. I don't know your general situation. But what we do, so many people have reflux. The acid in the stomach migrates up into the esophagus, and the pH in the stomach is much more acidic than the pH intention from the mouth to the end of the esophagus at the junction to the stomach. That pH is supposed to be 7. If the pH in your stomach is any lower, even a 6 or a 5, you would perceive that as irritation and burning. So, of course, we teach all our patients, if you're overweight, to try and lose weight, because visceral fat will create more pressure on the stomach, making that acid burp up. The other thing is it will, of course, erode and create some esophageal irritation and damage, the esophagitis. And then the gastritis is from the irritation and damage to the mucosal lining of the stomach. So we ask our patients to take things like glutagenics from a company called Metagenics, glutagenics, or L-glutamine from orthomolecular. These are amino acid powders that you can take a scoop and put it into room temperature water, and as much as an ounce, 3, 4, 5 ounces, and you drink it down, and that puts a little bit of protein that will absorb the action and work of the acid, instead of it working on the proteins that are lining your cell membranes. There are other items that are mixed into these products, glutagenics or L-glutamine powders by orthomolecular. There's another one that I like to use, and that is called phospholipid powders. These are fats. This fat is in a powdered form. It doesn't mix well with water. Nevertheless, we mix it with another product called SBI Protect powder, which is a amino acid powder that has zinc in it, and it has immunoglobulins. The immunoglobulin A is the primary defense and immune defense of the saliva and gut. So if you take that amino acid protein powder and you mix it with the phospholipids in some, I would say, warm water, a couple of ounces, and drink that, that's a nice antacid that we use. We try and encourage our patients to stop eating, especially if you're older. And what is older? Well, we're starting to see adult diseases in younger and younger people. So maybe I should drop my threshold. Nevertheless, I would say if you're 50 years old or older, you should be very cautious about eating late at night. And what our late here is anything after 6 p.m. being the last time you swallow any food. And that goes for swallowing, smoothies or soups and things like that. We want you to stop eating as you get older and try and shift your diet to breakfast and lunch. And then with aging, in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, we would like to see you eating breakfasts and lunch and doing some intermittent or time restricted eating so that your stomach is truly empty. That way, when you lay flat, the acid won't seep into your esophageal area. We do suggest raising the head of your bed, either with those electronic bed that you can buy today that elevates your head, or put a pillow or blanket rolled up under the head of your bed to raise it up a couple of inches, just to make sure that nothing will reflux backwards. We encourage, of course, exercise, a walk after dinner, and we would encourage people to use a digestive enzyme with their dinners, especially if they're over 55, 60 years old, because we lose the ability to digest our food. Then the food sits in our stomach longer. We secrete acid longer and longer. And that volume of acid and enzymatic digestion just sits around that bolus of food longer and longer. And this is solved if you work on eating breakfasts and lunch and skipping the dinners. So that would be the direction that I would go, instead of considering taking prescription medications to inhibit secretion of acid. And of course, there's revelations over the years that it's associated with being prescribed for too long. I have seen people who are on antacid proton pump inhibitors for months and years. It can be associated with other side effects, bone mineral density problems, and much more. Tamara says, NAD, which is nicotinamide adenosine dinucleotide, NAD, use is big on the internet now. It is good, or her question, is it good to add to your supplements? And are there risks for people who have or have had cancer? I think it's a fad. If you ever did a course on biochemistry, you'll realize that the biochemical pathways and the many cofactors, enzymes, minerals, nutrient. These are so voluminous that it would be impossible to take a pill or a capsule or a powder of each of these. Rather, we need to face where the real problem is, and that is our lifestyles. We are staying up too late. We have too much screen time, blue light, electromagnetic from the light poisoning from our fluorescent lights. We aren't getting outside enough. We are not exercising enough. We are not drinking enough water. We're not grounded or earthing, taking our bare feet and getting into the wet grass and soil and letting the electrons from the earth flow into us. We aren't eating whole foods. We're buying processed foods. It's horrible to think that today's American child is eating largely 70% of its food consumption is processed. And there are all kinds of chemicals and additives and colorings. So the high fructose and carbohydrate content of our diet and the study and research that goes to teach us to become addicted or habituated to a pattern of eating, whether it's the fumes pumped out at your fast food restaurants that you smell, which triggers a response and a desire and a craving. All these things are going on. That's where you need to put your effort, is lowering your starch carbohydrate, because as a volume that's overplayed. We're taking too much sugar, starch, and fruit sugars in. So get away from the processed food. Whatever your pounds of weight is, cut it in half, and that would be the number of ounces of water to drink. And then determine for yourself that you're going to start a motion program. Movement is what we're telling you, with some resistance weight training. Start to emphasize eating natural proteins and healthy fats that naturally occur, like butter and lard. And we would then encourage you to have a pattern of getting the light early in the morning, rising up, and getting the light dimmed after sundown, and starting to enjoy the light control that will help with the melatonin, pineal gland, and all the secretions you'll get from that. I would never go after a supplement like NAD. I don't think it will have, if you are to be taking something like this and you had cancer, I don't think you're harming yourself, but I think you're wasting your money to avoid cancer. And if one had cancer, these are the things we must do, all these healthy lifestyle choices. Lauren says, can you address nicotinic receptors and their role as far as healing of various conditions, including DM1, I guess that's diabetes type 1, and cancers? Some literature suggests that, so that would be nicotine patches or gum. What are your thoughts on nicotine's role? Smokers that were COVID positive did not get as sick as non-smokers, suggesting nicotine's receptors played a part. Yeah, our nervous system is somatic, muscle, and then we have a autonomic, which is without thought. One is on the autonomic. These actions in our nervous system happen without our being aware of it. It's both a stimulatory autonomic, or it's a calming rest nervous side of the autonomic system, called the parasympathetic. And we find nicotinic receptors in both areas, both in the conscious somatic part, where you're consciously moving a muscle. There are nicotine receptors, receptors on the muscles, muscarinic receptors. And then there are nicotinic receptors for both the parasympathetic and sympathetic side of the unconscious autonomic system. Of course, the sympathetic is your fight or flight, and your parasympathetic is digest and rest, to put it in a simple parameter. Um, one of the things is these receptors for nicotine are almost everywhere throughout the body, and they have an impact on the ACE receptor, which is associated with angiotensin converting enzyme, blood pressure, cardiovascular, blood flow. And there seems to be some interplay between these nicotinic receptors, uh, helping to avoid overstimulation of the ACE receptor, which was involved in COVID so much in the lungs, especially. Now, nicotinic receptors would then be stimulated or occupied with nicotine, like substances, when you have a smoking or a vaping that has nicotine in it. So that's why we think the smokers seem to have done better, because whatever the spike protein was doing to attract itself to the ACE receptor, apparently the nicotine in the smokers of cigarettes or vapors who have nicotine in their vape fluid seem to have prevented that spike protein from advancing itself and getting into those ACE receptors. So that's the superficial thought on their role. Is in, of course, back to the muscles, telling it to do certain contractions. On the autonomic side, things like digestion and rest, and on the excitatory autonomic side, like the secretion of epinephrine for fight or flight. So it's a very complex thing, and I don't think that we have a handle on exactly whether one should be advised to try some nicotine patch or gum. There's exciting science looking into Parkinson's and myasthenia gravis, or is it multiple sclerosis? I think it's MS, multiple sclerosis. Uh, Also, it's associated with your vagus nerve is a powerful one of your longest nerves, with digestive capabilities. So it's a field of study and research that needs to be looked into. And certainly, nicotine itself is not the carcinogen. It was the tars and stuff like that in the cigarette that was burning that was most likely related to the lung cancers. So hopefully that gives you a little food for thought. I'm not sure whether it will find its way into helping to solve these other medical diseases, but there certainly is good research and interest in it. Simone says, my daughter is 37 years old and she has scalp psoriasis. The itching is unbearable. She has tried everything, even steroids. Is there anything she can do to treat this? Thank you. Psoriasis of the scalp, in my experience of 43 years, mostly looking at medicine from the integrative, functional uh, viewpoint, since I was brought up by a father in food research, I always saw psoriasis as an autoimmune phenomena. The research on the damage to fatty acids I've been talking about for decades and decades, since my father was working in that field of specialty, the cell membrane fatty acids. So I've published on the membranes, I've published on the um, alpha linoleic and the linolenic acid are two essential fatty acids, on hydrogenation of the fats, the trans fatty acids through all our processed foods. And since we're all made of cells with this fat, which is essential for the structure and function of our receptors on our cells, so the cell behaves normally, we have to eat these fats. And the corrupt influence in the government, in the food, FDA, NIH, medical school training through pharmaceutical dominance and payoffs has ignored health and taught pharmaceutical remedies to diseases. Hence, you get all these treatments for your scalp psoriasis, which don't solve the problem. And the problem is multifold. It begins with the mother today does not have healthy essential fats for growing new babies. They're on so much processed foods with so very little linoleic and alpha linoleic fatty acids, the omega 6 and omega 3, that are unsaturated, unoxidized. And they eat all of this processed food that oxidizes the omega 6, that makes omega 6 so horrible, and yet it's essential to our cell membranes for life. They were also frightened away by corrupt influence, even through our federal government in 1977 or 78, with the McGowan report saying saturated fat is the cause of heart disease. Now we laugh at that 40 years later, 50 years later. But fortunately, I never laughed at that, and I knew it was wrong. But all I could do was help my patients and publish my work, and I had very little impact on the whole of medicine. Nevertheless, we always told our patients the importance of their cell membranes and their fats to eat and their protein that make up the structure of the cell membranes that hold our receptors in place. There's a new thing coming out, talk about an odd chain fatty acids, which is most unusual and most atypical, because our fatty acid chains are typically even chain numbers. So acetylcholine has 2 carbons, then the next would have 4, then 6, then 8, then 10, then 12, and then 14, 16. And most of these are usually 16 and 18 carbon long. So without boring you with biochemistry and metabolism, your daughter has to understand that her diet has to change. The best diet to eliminate all autoimmune source in the gut, because that's our primary source where we're broken down and where you're going to ultimately get healing from, is through what you eat. So the carnivore diet is the number one food allergy eliminating, cell membrane restoring, because the chicken and the fish and the beef and the pork and the eggs and the non-pasteurized, homogenized raw dairy, it's full of the material that we're made of. It's as close as you can get to trying to have mother's milk again to rebuild your skin. That's essentially what you're trying to do, is to eat a diet that is so simplistic and so basic that the lining of the gut heals and the inflammation of the body heals, and the tiny blood vessel vascular inflammation, of which the scalp is irritated with brushing, and I would certainly leave the scalp alone. I would actually advise you not to wash your hair, but to use scarves or hats, and just let your scalp not have anything topically put on. That's how I treat it here with my patients. And I only wash my hair maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. And I've enjoyed such thick and healthy hair, I think, because I kept all these chemicals out of my hair. And the only soap that I've used was Selsun Blue, which is a simplistic soap that has selenium in it. And selenium acts as an antifungal as well, and is very essential in protecting from fungal, bacterial, and other types of viral activities. So I use Selsun Blue, and I use the soap suds to just hit the pits, you might say. And then I only do that probably twice a month. That way, I grow my own new skin cells, and as they grow, and the scalp is included, and the base around each hair follicle has a healthy fat and a healthy cell membrane material based on the meat, fish, turkey, chicken, beef, eggs I eat. And it helps make healthy cells to support the new skin. And it will take at least 4 months to start growing from the bottom up the new scalp. So you have to walk in this walk for no less than 4 months. It'll probably take really 6 months. So it isn't a steroid that's a particular solution, or it isn't some kind of special soap suds. It's actually the opposite of any of that. It's doing nothing and eating and relaxing and enjoying a real food, zero processed, so no food allergies, adequate hydration, and stop putting chemical topicals on your skin and letting the natural oils heal it. And that's how I would begin. And that's how we've had so much of our successes with any autoimmune disease at all. Susan says, what is your feeling on shingle vaccine? I've known several people with a terrible and painful case of shingles, but I struggle with the possible side effects of the vaccine. Well, I don't recommend vaccines at all. I don't recommend the companies that make them and their questionable felony histories and their payoffs for uh, uh, the deaths that have occurred in these companies that make these vaccines, and all they do is just pay off in court fines, billions of dollars in fines, and they continue without anyone having to account for the deaths that they have caused. Therefore, I don't trust the company model that does this, let alone their products. Instead, shingles is usually associated with stress, the immune stress breakdown from a unhealthy, stressful lifestyle, from light pollution to not getting up to poor sleep to processed foods to environmental toxins and all these things stressing your immune system. And with that stress, then you can get along a nerve dermatome, the outbreaking of the varicella chickenpox original viral outbreak. And what we do here is we try and keep you rested and built up and exercised and hydrated, and your vitamin D up and your zinc levels up and trace minerals up. And we try and help you to keep the sugars that depress your immune system down. We ask you to move and circulate things. We take anti-inflammatory systemic enzymes. And if you sense shingles is coming along, we send you to the IV room to get a high dose vitamin C, which usually always turns it around anyway. So rather than stress my patients with potential company irregularities of these big pharmaceuticals, I try and steer them away unless I absolutely have to use some prescription medicine, and that's with great caution and certainly not with vaccines. And we try and live the healthy lifestyle, which will resist shingles happening. I see some live questions, so let me go to some of those. Beth says, any thoughts on C15 supplement? Yeah, I was just referring to that on the other question in the email here. C15, I'm going to set aside as another flashbang in my 43 years of history. If you eat meat, fish, chicken, turkey, beef, eggs, you have some seeds or nuts. And the ones that I prefer are like walnuts, pecans, macadamia nuts, and possibly some sunflower seeds if they're fresh, raw, not roasted. You're going to have all the essential fatty acids that you need. And I've been saying this, I'm so happy to see that doctor, the PhD researcher, talking about cell membranes. I've been doing it for decades, and it's good to see someone starting to open their eyes and get some time to write up grants to look at this. I think what she should do is really look into the studies that talk about omega-3 and omega-6s. Omega-6 is linoleic acid, Now, if you hydrogenate it, burn it, oxidize it, it's terrible, it's bad. And yet, omega 6 has to be in almost all living things, a goodly amount. Otherwise, there's diseases. One of the ones like psoriasis is a feature of omega 6 deficiencies. And there are other neuropathies and so forth. Not to mention the other vitamins, especially thiamine, vitamin B1. But I think the C15 is an interesting concept. It's odd, it's atypical, and the vast majority of your cell membranes have to have lots of cholesterol, healthy, unoxidized linoleic acid, omega 6. And we've just had too many papers that didn't control for studies on fatty acid research to find out how much processed food was in that person's diet, which is so typical. So you're not studying linoleic acid, you're studying a hydrogenated linoleic acid omega 6 that's been hurt. And so they're just proving the disease is from our lifestyle, but they won't bring it up because then they'd have to address the food companies, and then they'd have to address the payoffs of these, the grain companies and the whole racket to just make money and hurt us here. So it's just a sad picture. The next question is, can you do a podcast on perimenopause and hormones? Sure. If you wanted me to do just a specific one for questions on hormones, yes, I can do that. Let me make a note. Perimenopause. Now, there is on the tlcdoctors.com, if you go under, let's see what it's under, the blog, I believe, but there is also TLC videos, Tustin Longevity Center videos. And on that, if you type in the search, you put in gynecologist hormone replacement or just hormone replacement, you'll see about an hour and a half lecture done about 6 years ago by Dr. Merrick and Dr. Mitchell, two gynecologists on this as well. But I can certainly address another one. Thank you, Felipe. Mary says, hi, Dr. Rita, and thanks for all your love. Well, God bless you. What are your thoughts on peptides? There are, of course, GLP-1 and GLP-1 plus GIP for weight loss, etc. But there are so many others for muscle recovery and longevity. Mary, we are always looking for a cheap, sensational, injectable turnaround. It is very difficult to try and stand your ground and say, let's talk about why you eat so fast, or why you don't plan your diet time. Why are you so busy that you won't put time into what you're going to eat? Or why you don't recognize that you're full and you still keep on eating anyway because of taste, or you allow the surrounding pressure of family or at church with donuts. It's free, so you eat it. I mean, stress eating, emotional eating, late night eating. There are so many things that trigger this. We should be aware of this, and to jump over that and give ourselves injections weekly to block GLP-1 receptors to create gastroparesis or paralyzing the stomach so you feel bloated and full, which can lead to a permanent situation. Also have some risk for thyroid cancers, medullary thyroid cancers, and the risk goes on. Why do an unknown for a sensational short-term activity when it could generate so much harm? I took an oath on the day I graduated medical school that said I will do no harm. This stuff is new. This stuff has been associated with already serious side effects, black box warnings. Black box warnings. You have to understand when a drug comes out and it already comes with a black box, you're talking serious stuff here. So no, I'm not going to prescribe it. And I think doctors who are doing this are just moving the masses through their offices and going cha-ching, cha-ching to get a charge on the visit. And I love my patients, and I do believe in my patients, and I believe my patients can be inspired to see their value and to do the right thing, even in a depressing situation. That we are so unique, made by the Lord, His children. We have so much capability to say no to the wrong and yes to the right. All we need to do is stand for this and encourage one another. So that's how I feel about it. Same with the knees, getting all these peptide injections for repair, stimulating repair of the collagen and stuff. How about we lose the weight? How about we go out and exercise with dedication and understand it takes 9 months to make a baby, so it's going to take at least 3 months to see the results of the aerobic and weight resistance training, and the discipline of the water and getting to bed on time because you heal during the night. I mean, these things work. Otherwise, why did I go into medicine? Just to be a drug pusher? I will not do that. So I don't endorse these things, Mary. Rose says, hello, doctor. I have a friend who has ESRD. His GFR glomerular filtration rate is 19. I am wondering if there's any treatment at your center that will help him improve his kidney function. Because of the kidney disease, he has high blood pressure. Well, not because of the kidney disease. He has a lifestyle of something he's been doing that has been stressing the tiny glomeruli filtration areas that hurt those tiny little capillaries, and they are repairable. And when that's injured, then the body's response is to generate high blood pressure to try and make more fluid flow through the glomeruli as they get stiff. So yes, there's all kinds of natural things. Now, we are not going to tell you that there is a miracle drug. We do know that EDTA chelation therapy always improves glomerular filtration. And people with kidney disease, stages 1, 2, 3, they have done very well. And even those who have been on dialysis have been given by kidney specialists, nephrologists, EDTA chelation, showing improvement in their kidney glomerular filtration function. But this is a process, along with a lifestyle and some nutrients and personal self-restriction from doing the foods and activities that have injured the kidneys. But we are fearfully and wonderfully made and definitely can see improvement if we work this out together. Dolores says, hi, Dr. Rita. I just saw email that Dr. Kaur is leaving. I see her once a year. I need to make appointments for next year. I am not sure who I should make the appointment. I am definitely going to miss her. Well, that's our goal, is to see these doctors grow and develop experience and to start their own little satellite clinics and become like a grown child leaves the house. So we're very encouraged and we're very happy for her. And this is always the goal that has been discussed for years and years, is to see them prosper like that and go out on their own. So as soon as we have a location, address, and information, you can probably, we can help you be redirected to follow up with her, because God is our provider. And there's so many patients that need help like this. And so we will certainly help her with her patients that want to follow her. And give her all the blessings in the world. So let's see. Um, Dolores also says, yes, I pray the Lord will bless her with his favor and blessings. Yes. And then Garden Fairy says, I finally got some labs drawn. I'm wondering if they will also be routed to Dr. Merrick. I have not contacted her after she left. Yes, she just moved out of the state. And so, again, we wish Dr. Merrick well, and she moved. And so we will certainly follow these labs up. If they were ordered here, we take responsibility for them. So just call the front office, 714 521 1521. No, 714-544-1521. I'm sorry, I got that all messed up. 714-544-1521. That's the front office number. And then they'll get your chart and look for those labs. We'll make sure you get scheduled with follow-up. All right, now let's go back to these here. The next question is, my mom is in her late 70s and has been suffering from what we think is long COVID for over a year and a half. Do you have any recommendations on how to help her sense of taste and smell normalize? The olfactory nerve and the taste, these buds, the nerves have a myelin sheath surrounding them. That myelin sheath is very much dependent on thiamine to repair the fatty lining on the nerves. So you would have to eat a very low carb diet, very rich in protein, like fish, turkey, chicken, beef, and eggs, no processed foods. We would do chelation therapy that helps reduce any of the inflammatory spike proteins, takes systemic enzymes on an empty stomach twice a day, and then to go on ivermectin. We would give ivermectin for this for at least like 3 to 4 months, maybe 6 months. And here is also another area where nicotine gum, the 2 milligram chewed, might be of value, drinking plenty of water. But this is the scenario along with a vitamin B complex rich in thiamine, vitamin B1, would be very essential in helping to restore the nerve function, because thiamine is very important in all neuropathies. So that's how we would begin. Holly asked, do you recommend any adaptogen sleep aids for perimenopausal women? You know, before I would say that you need ashwagandha, or you would need extra magnesium or extra melatonin. I would say get up in the morning at sunrise. Go outside with your bare feet, stand in the wet grass for 2-3 minutes, and take your glasses or contacts off, so the infrared light, the long waves of the red light, infrared light, can get through your skull, your bones, your eyes, your clothes. And do that every morning, and make sure you shut your lights off and your screen time, and make sure you're well hydrated with water, half your weight in pounds as ounces of water every day. Begin an exercise program that has some weights in it with aerobic, at least 150 minutes, which would be roughly 5 hours a week, low carb, and then that's where I would begin. Female age, Linda says, female age 80, any solution for restless legs, especially painful when sitting for any length of time and when sleeping. Standing alleviates the pain, otherwise in good health. I would certainly recommend that you consider TLC methyl B complex and take 2 twice a day, because water-soluble B vitamins have a half-life of about 12 hours, so you need to take them twice a day. You might even need to go and get some additional uh, thiamine. It comes as 100 milligram. I see some as 150, others as 300. You might need fat soluble thiamine. It's called benfotiamine, benfotiamine, benfotiamine. Uh, but that's the direction I would go, along with, at the same time, whenever you take extra B vitamins, you need magnesium and molybdenum. So I would take the TLC multi-minerals with it. So if you took your B with the multi-minerals at night and drank your water, you should do well. I have this all the time. I have a very large population of people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s now, and some at 100. And this is all the time solved with the TLC multi-minerals, the full dose, 3 capsules a day. You could use more, and the TLC TLC methyl B complex. But I might start carrying benfotiamine, which is an extra kick for thiamine B1. But that's what I would do. And that says, hello, Dr. Rita. Thank you again. My husband is 65 years old, and last 8 years during the annual physical showed his PSA, prostate specific antigen levels, gradually rising to a 3.6 last year. That's still within normal limits. His recent physical last year showed his PSA level came down to 3.2. He averages 2 trips a night to the bathroom. He's been taking the systemic enzymes for the past 8 months. Well, I would ask him not to eat dinners. I would ask him to start shifting to eating breakfasts and lunches and omit dinners. I would ask him to increase his enzymes to 5 twice a day. I would ask him to take iodine, iodoral, or ithroid. They're equal. They're both 12.5 milligrams per capsule or tablet. I would take 1 or 2 a day of those little tablets. And then I would repeat a PSA within 2-3 months of doing all that with the extra enzymes, the extra iodine, not eating dinners, and see if that will have an impact. Of course, there's herbal things like saw palmetto and pectin that is helpful, but that's the direction I would aim. And here's a continuation from the prior prostate question. Would acupuncture help and Chinese herbs? I'm never going to say it won't help, because when I did my second doctorate in integrative medicine, I studied acupuncture and Chinese herbs and essential oils and Bach remedies and all that. And I would say that there's certainly energetic value to the energy that's contained in a certain herb, or the energy that's transmitted in a treatment called acupuncture. So I'm never going to say that's not going to help. But you can't be taking acupuncture all the time. You have to do things. The prostate will expand itself and grow if he drinks alcohol. It will grow if he eats a high carb diet. It will grow if he doesn't take iodine, and on, many things. I should probably do a separate one on benign prostatic hypertrophy, and do just one on that. Hopefully that helps you. Andrea asked a question, can you take digestive enzymes if you have an ulcer? Yes, because very often this imbalance, the vagus nerve, stress, poor autonomic responses, male secretion of the signal and enzymes produced, what your blood type is. If you're an A, you're tending to make low acid levels. If you're an O type blood, you tend to make more acid. but all of us with age make less and less. So depending on how old you are and where we're at uh, with your blood type and age, how late you eat, how much stress, taking digestive enzymes with a meal, 1 or 2 capsules of the orthodigestzyme by orthomolecular is very, very wise. Lee says, what are your thoughts about taking bioidentical hormones to supplement your loss of hormones during and after menopause? I'm all for it because I've been doing that since my 40s and I'm in my 70s now. I am hearing now that we need these hormones to function well in our senior days. Ta-da! That's exactly what I'm doing. And the loss of these hormones causes issues such as dementia, osteoporosis, heart attacks, etc. What are the risks? Well, I don't think hormones are a risk. I think there's been a misassignment that the cause of breast cancer or prostate cancer is related to that hormone, estrogen for the breast, testosterone for the prostate. But in fact, over the many decades, there has been no clear cut design identifying causation to estradiol for the breast cancer. I have many breast cancer patients who have chosen for that reason quality of life, bone health, heart health, immune health, better sleep, better energy, better memory, less dementia, memory loss. For these reasons, they chose to go back on natural hormones, even though they had a breast cancer. So I have a very different take. I think cancer is really caused uh, by the engine of the mitochondria being stressed and injured in the membranes because we hurt the cell membranes with our processed foods and we don't get the right structure of the membrane because we have these uh, hydrogenated fats that make up the cell membrane. And they're not responsive to signals. We sugar ourselves up. We get insulin. Insulin would be far more associated with promoting growth of tumors and cancers of all sorts. In fact, the mitochondrial metabolic cause of cancer is put out by Thomas Seyfried. You can see that on YouTube. Cancer as a mitochondrial metabolic disease. So that's why you would go very low carb. Now, the other thing is the glutamine amino acid is also associated as a energy disruptor with cancer. So it's not just glucose and fructose, it is the amino acid glutamine that can be burnt by anaerobic facultative um, um, metabolism of cancer cells. So, yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And let's see, where am I at? James says, are there any processes to rid our body of microplastics? To rid our bodies. The body is always going to put junk like microplastics if it comes into you into the fat cells. That's where you should get a sample. You can get a fat biopsy. I don't know where you would go right now, but that's where the research is at. They'll stick a needle into a fatty pad in your body and they'll study it for microplastics and toxins and pollutants. And we find, at least I don't know of any clear cut way to get rid of microplastics, but I have a suspicion that if you cleaned up your lifestyle, you filtered your water, you only use glass for your drinking out of, and stop eating or microwaving with. I've never owned a microwave, so I don't use microwave, and I don't cook with aluminum foil. Uh, I try and use as old-fashioned inert materials to cook with heat and plan the time to cook it. I've gotten used to eating room temperature things a lot because I don't have the time sometimes to warm things up the way that I want, but I refuse to microwave. I know high dose vitamin C does a tremendous job as a detoxifier of many types of benzene rings, chemical pollutants, and ultimately microplastics are a polymer of certain um, chemicals. And so I am going to say still high dose vitamin C, EDTA chelation with a low carb diet, intermittent fasting, exercise, and taking systemic enzymes. That kind of approach is the best that I could suggest, at least at this time. If I learn something, and I am looking, I'm always studying, then we go from there. All right, are there any new ones? Not that I can see here. I can maybe get in a couple more on the next page. John and Wendy, hope you are well, Dr. Rita, battling T3, T4 variations over a decade. I just discovered my boron was not even detectable in my recent labs. Puzzling, since I regularly eat foods with high levels of boron and take gut enzymes. Any clues on why it has become depleted? Thanks in advance. We appreciate all your kind work. Boron is a trace mineral. It has various biochemical needs in the body. What I do, I'll tell you what I do. I take my own TLC multimin to get it in. So I take it every day of my life. I eat a diet that is very heavy on grass-fed beef and beef products, prairie-raised chickens with the skin, and wild-caught fish. And then the place where I get my grass-fed beef also has the prairie-raised pigs and their chicken for eggs. So I'm as close as I can get to farm raised with the ground. Now the ground is contaminated from chemtrails with the aluminum oxides, barium oxides, strontium oxides, and other plasticizers and pathogens, probably even graphene. Nevertheless, this is why we walk by faith, not by sight. And we are seeing awareness. We should call our congressman 202-224-3121 or 202-225-3121 and tell them you want a open, transparent exposure on geostratospheric engineering, where they're seeding the atmosphere to dim the atmosphere from the rays of the sun based on alleged global warming, but that's already old history. There's a wonderful video out on that called The Dimming, DIMING, The Dimming. It's free, thedimming.com, and you can learn all about it. This is as real as me sitting here. So learn about it, call your congressman, have it looked into. And I would have to say, you just have to take these multi-minerals. I don't have an answer for the boron. I suspect through the years of our life, we had too many Mountain Dews, or we had Dr. Peppers, or we had Gatorade at the football fields, and all that bromelain that was put in there as instead of iodine has destroyed some of the healthy mineral levels that we should have been having for years, and it has upset many, many balances in our body. But that's the best I can guess, John and Wendy. Simone says, hi, Dr. E. Thank you for taking my question. My daughter has scalp psoriasis. Oh, I answered that one already. Okay. Terry said, my husband had 3 surgeries in the past year and has had 6 MRIs, 3 CAT scans, and multiple x-rays. He is currently completing testing for suspected multiple myeloma, and they want him to have a full skeletal x-ray in addition to all the blood and urine. Understand that excess radiation can add to the cause of cancer. Do you agree? Yes, I do. But then on the other hand, we have to have certain imaging that will give us additional information. I would say of all the things that we do, take the TLC mineral with the TLC methyl B complex to try and get the thiamine, B vitamins, and the minerals up. Go on a more carnivore-like diet, eat lunch and breakfast and skip your dinners, start an exercise and weightlifting, aerobic and weightlifting program, and then drink your water, half your weight in water. I would get out in the morning with your feet in the grass for 2-3 minutes with sunrise every day. Get the lights shut off as the day goes on into the night so you get the light screening done, or you can get the blue light blockers like I have in my glasses, or get other lenses you can put on to filter your light or change your light bulbs. Get to bed on time. Consider the high dose vitamin C and chelation. And then the EDTA chelation will pull out the gadolinium that is in the dyes for these scans and such. The impact of the free radical damage is mitigated with the high dose vitamin C. So there's many values to doing that, Terry. All right, it's 7:01. I'm going to end here and then pick up next week with the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 questions. I'm sorry I didn't get them all. But we had a good time tonight. We got quite a bit done. All the live questions were done. In the meantime, please share and like if this is beneficial. And go to tlcdoctors.com, get on the newsletter, type in your question. I'll try and do it. I'm very, very, very busy, but I covet your prayers and I covet your love. So I will do the best that I can. I'll see you next Tuesday at 6 o'clock in the evening for an hour and try and hit as many questions as I can. Take care. Good night.